waiting for this thing to kick off. And there we go. We are live. But before, you know what? So I'm just going to let's wait a little bit for probably 2 minutes
Okay.
and see who is going to join us. Okay, so we're gonna do that. I see Instagram is not taking it, so I'm just gonna take off Instagram. That's fine, and we're gonna go live on my personal page as well. So fantastic. There we go. So I see there's two people already joining in, and we're gonna let people come in first. We're gonna let people come in. We're live, guys. We are live. We're gonna let people. There we go. Amazing. I love this thing. I love this thing. Okay. So obviously we're live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. Let me check that out. We're live on YouTube. And we're live on Twitter. Everybody can follow us on Twitter. Fantastic. So we're live on Twitter. And of course, a few people are joining in. So, guys, fantastic. So we've got about 10 people joining in already. Wow, fantastic. This is beautiful. So, guys, welcome to the first episode ever. This is episode 001 of a brand new show that I do believe is definitely going to be an exciting show for you guys. Okay, so we're going to do this all the time, every single week. And the show name is Redefine Your Hustle. Well, first of all, from an entrepreneurial perspective, I personally, as John Lombella, love the idea of hustling. Not in a negative connotation of what we all know, like people who are hustlers are people who are suffering and whatnot. I love the American understanding of it. I love the fact that these guys, when they talk about hustling, it's about that journey that really takes them to real success. And that's why, for me, hustling has always been something that I wanted to look into. So I decided for us to start focusing on redefining our hustle. And importantly, as we look into what's going on right now with the COVID situation, the pandemic that seemingly is killing all businesses around the world, people kind of have to refocus and redefine what their understanding of hustling is. Or in fact, are they hustling? Are they focusing? Are they pivoting? Are they working on different strategies for them to be able to come out on top? So I am joined live right now by a good friend of mine. Her name is Gill Gibbs. And of course, I will let her introduce herself just now. So she and I are going to be talking about the impact of the COVID-19 in the event and exhibition industry. So, by the way, she is the CEO of the Concept, a group of companies that specialize in this specific industry. She sits at the board of the event and exhibition industry within South Africa. So obviously, she's a very keynote and a very important individual who will address the audience. And depending on who you guys are and following us online, maybe you are professionals, maybe you are of the industry, maybe you are just a supplier, whatever, and you want to know more about what's happening in this specific space of the industry. She is the right person to talk to you guys because she gets the insight directly from the horse's mouth. So she is always monitoring what is going on because ultimately she is affected by the industry. I mean, by what's going on in the pandemic. But at the same time, what we truly want to be able to do is to figure out how we can make things work. Okay, so I introduced you, Gill Gibbs. Thank you very much, darling, and thank you for being on this show. And thanks. You are just such an amazing soul.
And thanks for the opportunity. Hi,
Beautiful.
everybody. Sorry, I'm Gill Gibbs. I'm the CEO of the Concept G group of companies. We've got a number of companies under our group. And whatever I can do this evening to assist you and to guide you and to give you advice, that's really what this is about. We're not all in the same boat and we're not all on the same ocean. And until we've walked in each other's respective shoes, we don't actually know what the respective people are feeling or thinking. So we need to be sensitive to that. And I think by sharing stories and story doing and illustrating the possibilities of turning this thing around and just understanding and accepting that it's not in our control, but there are elements that are in our control. And what can we do to pivot in this environment?
Absolutely. You just said a key word. The key word is pivot. I've been applying that particular keyword recently, and as I talk to various entrepreneurs, and I've been on various Zoom calls educating people as well. So the idea is to understand how can we pivot, right? So this is a pandemic, and obviously for a lot of us, many of us people have never been in a situation this hard where inevitably, the big companies, the small companies, the employees, everybody's affected at the same level, right? But before we dive into that, Jill, this show is about inspiring entrepreneurs. It is about helping the younger generation for them to understand exactly how people ahead of us, of them, have been able to get into business and all that kind of stuff. So, what I would like you to share, and of course, I will also share a little bit of a story here without dragging it too long. I would like you to tell me a little bit of a story about how you started, and how did you find yourself into being a group of companies, Concept G. And I know you are one of my clients as well. I will talk about that, but I would like you to share your views. How did you start? And just inspire quite a few people out there who would like to know exactly about who you are.
So if your question goes back to how I started in the industry, then
Right.
I think that's possibly because there's been so much time. I'm not a youngster. So, but this wasn't my career choice. I wanted to be an actress. When I was 7 years old, I sat on my dad's knee and he said, "My darling, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And I said, "Dad, I'm going to walk into Hollywood and just be made, and I'm going to be an actress, and I'm going to be the most famous actress in the world." And then life happened, and things happened, and marriage happened, and babies happened, and that dream did not happen for me. But what I did do is I moved overseas and I lived in Scotland and England for a couple of years. And I got involved in optometry, which was completely different from anything I ever imagined. But necessity is the mother of invention. And if you talk about pivoting, that was an opportunity that came up and I went for it and I threw my passion, my drive into it. And naturally, when I came back to South Africa, when I was able to start working again, I decided to go back into optometry. I then moved, after doing that for a couple of years, I moved to Matuba, which is just outside of Richards Bay, about 45 minutes away, and owned a hardware with the respective partner. And after a while, we decided to move to Johannesburg for various reasons. And I bought a training franchise, and that got me into sales. And from that training franchise, I worked that for a couple of years. The kind of bread and butter market was the student market. So I spent a lot of my evenings at the various houses of students trying to get them to engage in the program and to see if they were able to absorb the study skills and whatever it is that we offered. And then we also did corporate training as well. And shortly after a while, I decided to leave the training franchise and I signed up with a recruitment agency. And they put me in touch with the organizer of international fairs and exhibitions, a German gentleman by the name of Wolfgang Striebeck. And that's actually how I got inside the industry. And we were selling space on shows. And the shows that I was dealing with was plastics, health and lifestyle. And it was pretty boring because most of my clients were overseas. And in those days, we worked on fax. And we would have to dial up to get onto the modem to use the internet. And some of you out there probably not knowing what I'm talking about. But it was a big struggle. And from that, the company eventually, it didn't work out and a spot came up on the contracting side of the industry. And that's when I moved over to Z Displays, which was the sister company to Shell Systems. And Shell Systems and Z Displays amalgamated to form Oasis, which is now known today as GL Events, which is a very based company. And they're an international company and also an EXA member as well. And Andrew and I were there. I was there for 12 years. He was there for 17 or 18 years. And that's actually how we met. And in 2010, we decided to go out on our own and we started Concept G. So we're actually 10 years old. And needless to say, it's been quite a shocker of a birthday, a 10-year birthday, going into this pandemic. But we're very proud of what we've achieved. And over the years, what we've done is we're quite progressive and forward-thinking people. So every time an opportunity has come up to do an agency-based company or try and push it and steer towards an architectural element, it was really structured around our staff and what their dreams and vision was as to where they wanted to go in the company. So that's why we ended up having all of these other companies. But now, during this time of lockdown, one of the companies that we've launched at the cusp of autumn is called Blue 3 Creations, which is a company that is very unique, very authentic. Some of the offerings are virtual, because obviously that's the way we're going. We're going into a digital environment. Not to say that it's going to take over our industry by any means, but I think it's going to run as a digital twin or a hybrid or a parallel medium to the offerings that are out there in the physical sense.
Right.
And this was, Blue 3 Creations was really because it's a vision and a dream of myself and Andrew, my partner, where we want to be able to offer people signature elements that you would be the only person in the world to own this particular design of coffee table or element of furniture or whatever it might be. And it's customized and it has your signature on it. So there is no other copy like it in the rest of the world. I think there is a niche market for it. And I think it doesn't have to cost hundreds of thousands of rands. It could be something as simple as a resin table. We've been working a lot with resin at the moment, where you can put any element, whether it be gems or sparkles or fake diamonds, whatever, in the resin and embed it in the coffee table or the dining room table, whatever it is that you've manufactured. And that becomes a talking piece when you do invite people around, or it could be used for offices or whatever the case may be. And it's anything from a bar to a wine rack to a coat rack to a lazy Susan, whatever it might be. The item would be based on the brief from the clients, and we would then customize it and make it exclusive to them.
Right.
So, no, it's a one of a kind, basically. So that's really Blue 3 Creations, and part of the offering, quite a large part of the offering, is the video and the virtual and the animation aspect, which we're quite excited about, and we've gone into quite a lot of depth over the last 2 weeks. A lot of studying, a lot of researching, a lot of playing around, and we're actually launching tomorrow. We're launching tomorrow on all the mediums to showcase our pilot stand, which is based on a 360 walkthrough of the stand, which also has touch points as well that you can go into.
So with that being said, Blue Creations, do you think it is a result of, your pivoting as part of what's going on in the pandemic right now, in the COVID, or is it something that you saw was just going to be there because the future is going digital, virtual, and people want to be able to adapt and start doing things online and things? Or did you now accelerate the idea of Blue Creative on the premise of what's going on in the pandemic right now?
To answer your question, John, I think it's definitely, we had to pivot. We had to do something. We had to differently. And it's not to say we couldn't have put this offering into Concept G or into Blue Cube. Blue Cube is our below the line agency. But what we wanted is we didn't want to cloud the offerings of the two different companies. Concept G is a manufacturing arm of the group of companies. So that's where all the manufacturing and production takes place. Blue Cube is a below the line agency. And below the line agency, there's certain parameters that surround that. So we wanted to have a company that was a little bit more out into the future. And it was definitely spearheaded by COVID-19.
Okay, fantastic. So with this being said, guys, for all the viewers who are currently joining us, and we've got an audience of about 20 people here right now connected. That's beautiful for a first show. Let me tell you a little bit of a story on how I got to meet Gill. First of all, I happen to know exactly how the event and exhibition industry works. It's been about 12 years now. And when I first kicked off my platform to provide services that help their sales team in that particular industry, but not only the sales team, I mean project managers and designers and the commercial aspect, guys in finance and accounting. So I put together a platform that helps everybody in South Africa within the event and exhibition industry for them to be able to manage the shows throughout the year. So it's a very interesting cycle comprised of obviously the organizers of the show. So for those of you guys who know, if you have, for example, the the auto maker show, or you have the Securex show, or whatever show that is in South Africa. These are coming from organizers. All right. So an organizer thinks about a beautiful idea, or the wedding show, for example, okay, or the home decor show. All of these shows, there are multiple shows throughout the year in South Africa, and this anybody can become an organizer as long as they're visionary and understand what it is that they want to be able to offer within that particular industry, right? And eventually, the organizer may not necessarily be able to have all the tools, all the necessary equipments to be able to put the show all together. So what would they do? They will go to a company like Concept G. Now, Concept G, that represented here right now by Gill, all they do is they have all the necessary skills, the tools from design aspect to manufacturing and all that kind of stuff to ensure that they're helping the organizer put together the show by building it at a specific time. So there are multiple companies in South Africa like Concept G, and of course there are multiple organizers as well that put the shows together throughout the year, right? And eventually the companies like the organizers and the manufacturing companies, both of them have a sales team. And for them to be able to manage their internal sales process, they need either a very well suited application for that to work for them. Either they outsource it or they develop it for themselves. But I've been fortunate enough for the last 12 years to have built a platform that responds to the needs of these two people. So the organizer as well as the manufacturing companies that Gill represents right now. Now, over the years, I mean, look, it's been the ups and downs of my entrepreneurial journey, which I'll be able to talk in another show, in another sequence. But I met Jill just about 2.5 years ago. And 2.5 years ago, after chasing her partner, Andrew, for about 3 or 4 years, wanting them to be a client of mine. So I kept on sending emails. I kept on phoning. And Andrew is an extremely busy guy who wouldn't just pick up the phone and or even, if he doesn't know the number, he wouldn't pick up the phone, right? So one day I am out of the country and I receive an email and I say, you know what? Please contact Andrew from Constant. I'm like, really, Andrew? But I've been chasing after this guy for the last 2.5 years or 3 years. So please contact him and make a connection and see exactly whether he will be interested to get a platform. At that time, Jill and Andrew were busy evaluating other platforms. And I remember it took me about 2 or 3 days to come back in South Africa. And on a Saturday, we engaged, we met, and right there and then, immediately after my presentation, Jill was sold, and so was Andrew. So it was one of my interesting sale made. But since that time, even the journey of becoming, training them and training the entire company for them to be able to see exactly what's going on and how they can use the platform. I mean, that allowed us to build a very, very nice relationship that today, for me, Jill is more than a client. She is a partner. She's a friend. She's not family, because this is exactly how I treat all my clients, right? We become part of the family. So Jill, how can you say, for example, this year, the COVID or the COVID-19 situation impacted you particularly in your business? Did you expect it? I mean, if I recall, the whole COVID situation kicked off around December, and it at the time I think it wasn't too big, and nobody in South Africa, there were no cases in South Africa. I remember I was traveling, I was in Dubai and Singapore and whatnot, but it kind of really kicked off in March. So what would you say happened to you between January, February, and March? And how were you able to identify that this is really something that is going to be here for a long time, and allowing you and forcing you and Andrew to pivot? How has COVID-19 impacted you in the business, in your business?
To go back a few steps, Concept G's got quite a large international client base, and some of those clients reside in the various provinces of China. So we heard quite early on about the virus and about the effects that it was having on China in particular. And I think what we saw in the news and what we were exposed to in terms of articles was not exactly what was really going on. And we kind of got quite a scary overview of what was happening. And we started in December to have these debates. What if this thing gets out of control? What if it spreads? What if it reaches Africa? What does this mean? What does this picture look like? And I can tell you that from that moment, if we were sitting in a chair, it was not a comfortable chair. And that continued as we opened quite early in January, because we closed early in December. And I think a lot of companies in our industry didn't have a very good 2019. The economy wasn't great. Shows weren't great. I had a medical setback in 2019 that kind of impacted on the business as well. So we were hopeful that 2020 was going to really be the game changer in terms of catch up and focus and getting the offerings of the different companies and portfolios, getting the team right, and trying new, fresh, and innovative things. And then, of course, these uncomfortable, tough conversations started happening from an EXA board level through to industry, through to going month on month thinking, what if? And it honestly felt in the beginning stages like watching I Am Legend, that this is some kind of movie, that it's there, but is it really going to happen? So you were almost hanging in limbo and hovering, which was not a comfortable thing from a business point of view. And then in March, Friday the 13th, we started to wake up to all of these shows cancelling, and they were the major shows. So we called it Black Friday, and not in a good way, because we lost 9 million rands worth of turnover in one day with those postponements and cancellations. And that's when we sat down, we called an emergency meeting with our team, and we said, guys, we need to start making plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And already the pivoting started, and plans were being made left, right, and center. And I can't tell you that we've perfected it, because we haven't. And as I said earlier, to my point, that this is not in our control. So we can only do what we can do. And what we decided to do as a group of companies is to look inside the skill set of the team and to say, first of all, what have we got? What skill set have we got? And how can we leverage off this to make sure that we come out of this with some kind of sanity and some kind of company behind us? It's still quite a volatile situation. In our industry, there's a lot of companies that are very, very adversely affected because perhaps they don't have multiple offerings, or the nature of their business is different from anybody else's. I'm not really sure, and without walking in their shoes, I can't really comment, but I can just tell you that there is a WhatsApp communication group that we've started in our industry for all members, for all role players, not just EXA members. And the pleas and the despair is quite disheartening. So what we've done as an industry body is we've taken upon ourselves to advise and guide and give the factual information and access to information for all of those role players, so that it just eases the situation. Like if they're having a problem with UIF applications or TERS applications, we guide them in the right direction. We make sure that fake news is not being spread, that messages of hope and motivation are also in the mix as well, because it can't just be about doom and gloom. We do need to have a positive and optimistic approach towards the future, because shows will happen again, events will happen again. It's not going to be the same. And as long as you accept that, and you accept the conditions that you're in, and know that you need to do certain things to pivot and to move in different directions to be able to have longevity and sustainability, then I think everybody will be okay. Is it going to be tough? Yes, it's tough for everybody. I mean, Andrew and I haven't had a salary. We haven't taken a salary from the company since March. It is very tough out there. And when you've got a team, we were up to 54 people when the cancellations and the postponements started happening. People relying on you, and they're supporting sometimes 10 to 20 other people within a family structure. It's not an easy situation. It really isn't. I'm an idealist. I'm a very optimistic person, and I do know that we're going to come out of this, but we are going to be battle weary. We are going to be scarred. There's no doubt about it. I don't think there's any company out there that won't be. But what we tried to do was to become an essential services provider straight away in all of the companies, so that we could provide offerings, the imperative stuff that are going to become part of the new reality. when we do start eventually going to events and retail stores and trade shows, it's a different picture. Even when you walk on an exhibition stand, there's got to be a hygiene element before you start engaging. And there's definitely opportunities, provided you don't try and overcharge people, because there is a kind of a watchdog going on about that. But that you just have a sustainable approach, and it's amazing how little we actually need to get by today. We were very spoiled before, and I think we spoiled the situation as a
Sure.
result.
So, as a manufacturing company, do you see yourself being an essential service by helping the government right now, especially the Department of Health, in building probably hospital facilities, or helping them with hospital beds, or whatever that needs to be built, and to help, or even actually even making some of the offices today being COVID compliant, if I can put it that way?
Absolutely, absolutely, John. I think as far as the temporary hospital are concerned, it's an offering that we do have, and we pitched on it quite soon after getting all of the designs and everything sorted. But as far as Johannesburg Expo Centre is concerned, that's already infiltrated with a hospital setup in the event that it is required. So it's certainly not really chasing that opportunity. If it comes along, it is one of our offerings, and we have got it on our catalogue portfolio. But we're more about we're not about the elements that aren't going to last long. We're about the longevity of the component that we've designed. And designed is a way of customizing those units that it can be branded, it can be sold at a sponsorship opportunity, and it's got longevity. So it's a shop fitted element that's going to last the distance, because we need to look 18 months to 24 months. These elements are going to be part of our lives, if not longer. So we can't just do cheap, nasty elements that after 2 weeks they fall apart or clients not happy. We've never been about that. That's not our market. That's not our drive. That's not our focus. I think we're cost effective. I think we're market related, but our designs are quite different from what everybody else is doing, and our stuff is not run of the mill. And there's a lot of opportunity, particularly for sanitizing elements, because every entrance, to a building, to an event, to a trade show, to whatever it is that opens up, sanitizing is going to be part of that deal.
Let me ask you a question. Let's talk about the relief package. The president spoke about a 500 billion rand relief package, of which about 200 billion of that is going to be, to go towards businesses. What do you make of that, and how does that sound to you? I mean, you had about 54 staff. First of all, I'm gonna ask you another hard question. Did you find yourself in a situation where you had to let a few people go? And if you did, was it temporarily, and hoping that things actually come back into normal for you to be able to rehire them? Who did you keep? What kind of people have you kept for your business? Everybody's affected. The big, the small, the solopreneurs. Everybody's affected. That's. I mean, we've heard a story of Edcon, SAAs and business rescue. Everybody's affected, right? So nobody is escaping from this situation going on right now. But yet there is a relief package, and that particular relief package is supposed to be able to help businesses. The reason being, they want to help businesses so that these guys, folks, can actually keep their jobs of all the other employees they have. Okay, so they can actually support their families and whatnot. But even before that, there's also the banks that sort of came up with some initiatives for them to be able to say, hey, you know what? If you are a bank, a client with us, and we saw Standard Bank, Nedbank, FNB, ABSA, Capitec, coming up with quite a few strategies to helping small businesses, medium or even large. What do you make of these two different scenarios? The banks stepping up, and the government and the president talking about the relief package. Do you see yourself benefiting from that particular aspect? And if so, what are the compliant elements? Or if not, what would prevent you from being able to do that? And if you have already even engaged in tapping with either the banks or the government for that, for having access to that particular relief fund, what has your journey been, your experience? If you have been approved or rejected, what would that be? So talk to me a little bit about this relief package, what it means to you, and what do you need as a business. I understand you've pivoted because that's the entrepreneurial spirit. We always have to be moving along, and but to find better opportunities. But you also have people that really relied on you for them to go and put food on the table, right? But at the same time, and I understand in your industry, perhaps since December, you guys have not registered a single income. Everybody, because of China, right? So talk to me exactly about this, and how does it affect you? What do you make of the relief package? That's
I
an
need to,
interesting question.
I need to in my response because I was born and bred in this country. And yes, I lived overseas for 5 years, but ultimately I'm a South African and I've paid my dues. And I think the relief package from a business owner's point of view, it's just not there. So what we did, as soon as we knew how to do it and what the procedures were, and all of this information was being shared by EXA on the group, our financial manager, Megan, went out on a limb. She sat for hours because the process of actually applying was so tedious and everybody was jumping on the bandwagon at the same time. So it usurped the whole site, and you kept having to go in and persevere, sometimes 4 to 5 hours on the run to try and get your applications through. And what we decided to do as a company is we did apply for a relief through the Oppenheimer and the Rupert Fund, but it was already closed by the time and there was no money left by the time we managed to get our application going there. And it was quite frightening how quickly that was usurped. I think as far as the other relief is concerned, it doesn't look after the business owners. And that to me doesn't make sense, if I'm to be very honest with you, because we are kind of the core of the company. Without the business owners, there's no company.
True.
So we should be getting the help and the relief, and that's not happening. And what we did is we applied in March. We had certain staff on limited duration contracts that about a week or 10 days before the lockdown was announced, they had already departed. So they weren't on the books anymore, with a view to coming back in May when it got busy again. And then, of course, lockdown happened. And what we did is we applied for TERS for all of our staff. Right. And Concept G, there has been the first payout for that, but in Blue Cube, not yet. So we're busy again chasing. We probably have to reload our applications, go through all of that. But as far as
before you carry on, I just want to understand that. I just want to understand what you just said. So you say that Concept G has been able to receive a first payout out of any one of these relief packages, is that correct? Okay, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
It's money that goes to the staff. It doesn't, you get a schedule and there's a list of your staff members and the amount that they're going to get or what they qualify for. And that money gets paid directly to the staff. There's nothing to the business owners and nothing to the company itself. And then, of course, we've got about, I'd say 30% of our team on the manufacturing side have foreign passports, and they were not looked after in the beginning stage. And it was only just recently announced that I think it was 2.5 billion has been set aside for people with foreign passports that are compliant, that have paid their UIF and they've paid their dues over the time of working. So right. At least a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for them. But that was quite frustrating to explain to the team, hey guys, there's been some payouts, some of you been paid on Concept G, but on Blue Cube, we're still waiting. And then obviously on the foreign passport issue, you guys need to wait a little bit longer. And that's heart-wrenching. That is heart-wrenching to have to communicate that to your team and to have to tell them to wait and to hang on a little bit more. It's very exhausting.
Is there a reason why the government or this relief process is not even looking after the business owners? Do you think there is a reason for that? And I totally understand, because if I, as a business owner, cannot be taken care of, I mean, I also have my responsibilities, right? So if I can't be taken care of, how do I even keep up with the ability or even the interest to carry on running the business? Is there a reason why you, as a business owner, wouldn't be taken care of?
I don't know, John. It doesn't make sense to me, because at the end of the day, We've applied for payment relief where we can.
Right.
We've had conversations where we can, but that is for a period of 3 months. If you look at our industry sector and what they're saying, we're going to peak maybe in July, we're going to peak maybe in September. The rule of thumb is that exhibitions and events are not going to happen for the next 8 to 9 months. So it doesn't make sense, because the payment relief situation is not going to extend to 8 to 9 months. And that, I think, is the saddest situation of our industry sector. First of all, we're not recognized as a standalone. And what EXA is doing is we formed various initiatives, one being with the SA Events Council, to lobby to government to get recognition for our sector, because we're always lumped with marketing and advertising or tourism, and we're not that. Our requirements are very different and very unique. And a lot of our staff work on an hourly rate. They don't get paid a fixed salary.
Right.
And they work on an hourly rate with overtime. And if they're not working, it means they don't get paid. So that becomes very, very tough. And it doesn't make sense to me why they're not looking at it. And I think with all the vetting that we're doing and all the lobbying that EXA is doing, I'm hopeful that the government will kind of take notice of us and to say, this industry needs help, because once the tourism industry opens, and they're saying possibly January, February next year, when the B&Bs and travel and hotels and all of that will open, those people attract exhibitors and visitors, and exhibitors are going to need stands. And if we don't have manufacturers and companies in the industry, which is our sector, what are these people going to do? So I think a holistic approach needs to be taken to the industry. It's not just about the B&Bs and the hotels. It's about the wage earners. It's about the businesses that had a rough 2019. We've paid our dues. We've paid what we've needed to. And now we need help going forward into the next cycle. And if it means that exhibitions and trade shows can only happen in the 8 to 9 months' time, what does that picture look for us and look like for us? And what can they offer us in terms of relief? There are loans that you can go for. The various banking institutions have offered, from a personal and a business point of view, certain criteria to apply for loans. But what you don't want to be doing as a company when you don't have revenue for 8 to 9 months is to go into a debt situation.
Correct.
And to have it piling every single month on month, until you can actually operate.
I mean, you touched on the
strength of having a below the line agency comes in, because our offerings aren't just about manufacturing. We can do graphic design, we do the virtual side of things, we can do annual reports, we can do website design, social media management. And I think in this period, what we would do is we would work to the client's budget and look at what bouquet we can offer them for that, rather than just say, okay, cool, this is a fat retainer for us to do for the next few months. So I think respectively, everybody has kind of looked at what they can do, and they've brought it down to, what do we need to survive for the next 8 to 9 months? And what does that look like? How do we pivot in directions that can bring us the revenue and possibly run parallel to the main component of what we were doing? Because when we do get back to doing exhibitions and events, it's going to be very different. The stands will be more.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you another question. I mean, you touched on two elements that I wanted to expand on. I wanted to speak about the correlation between the tourism industry as well as the event and exhibition industry. But also, what I want to find from you is the fact that we're speaking about having to lower cost. Okay, what was it like for you as a company with offices? And I know that you guys have got massive offices, especially the warehousing aspect of things, where you got to keep a lot of things for your manufacturing. During the enforced level 5 lockdown, how was that like for you? Because nobody, I would assume that you probably were not necessarily registered as an essential service at that particular time, and if you were not, you probably still continued working. But how was it like for you at that time? And did you manage to work from home? Did your team manage to work from home? Did your sales team continue working in profiling client for the future, especially perhaps in alignment with blue creatives? How was it like for you? during the lockdown, the level 5 lockdown?
John, I can work anywhere. I can be sitting next to a river or a dam with my laptop,
Right.
as long as I've got connectivity.
Good.
So for me, it was quite easy. Obviously, in terms of doing the housework, we had to kind of find a balance between the work hours versus tidying up the house and making sure that our environment was clean and tidy
Sure.
around us. For me, I'm quite an adaptable person. So for me, working from home was absolutely fine. Andrew did battle a little bit in the beginning because it's about the lack of control and not knowing what's going to happen. And at that stage, we did not know what we were looking at in terms of the first events that were going to be allowed to happen.
Mhm.
And what we were starting to fight for was to say, we are not part of the large gathering scenario. So we're not like live events or mass stadium get-togethers. We're about controlled, organized events and exhibitions and trade shows that we can actually decide on the amount of visitors at any given time, the spacing between stands. There's a lot of controls that we can put in place and maintain to be able to have a safe environment. And if you look globally and localized, that is what we're driving as the industry bodies, is to say a safe event. What does it look like? What does the picture look like? And that's what we are busy lobbying and vetting to government to get it gazetted. And we're hoping that that's going to bring the exhibition and events and trade shows to happen a lot earlier than what they're anticipating. Remember that what I'm saying as to 8 and 9 months is worst case scenario.
Okay, so even if the government were to reopen, let's say the trade shows and the events, let's say by September, right? What is the outlook of that particular industry, especially from of course you got the organizer, you've got you the manufacturer, but then there's somebody like me, the visitor. What do you think it is going to be like for people who are during that time, we're just coming out of winter, and people are kind of scared, and they're like fearing another outbreak of the COVID situation. Do you think that people are really going to be able to gather again in these large crowds and things like that? Or perhaps do you think that the crowds are going to be cut in half? And if so, who loses?
I think everybody across any industry sector, any business, any entity is losing at the moment in some way or form. But there might be other ways that we're gaining as well. So we need to look at the positive and the negative. But to answer your question, I think at the end of the day, we can't control what is going to happen in terms of trade shows, events, and exhibitions that open again, and live events as well.
Right.
Definitely going to be controlled. And as far as the visitors are concerned, I was actually on a webinar earlier this week where something very poignant came across, and one of the organizers was talking, and she said, whether you decide to go to an event or a trade show or to the retail stores or to go and have your car serviced, that's a very personal choice. So
Right.
you can't generalize and say that everybody's going to be scared to go, because right now, as we're talking, there are people out there that feel that they are completely infallible and this virus is not going to get them, and they're not adhering to social distancing, they're not wearing masks, they're not doing the necessary cleansing of hands, etc., etc. So I think it's very much a personal thing, and that I can't tell you what that picture looks like, because you can't generalize and say 2,000 people of a particular industry would go, because that's what we know. We don't know.
Right.
All we can do, it's going to be trial and error, and it's going to be doing the risk assessment, obviously mitigating the risks of having the event to decide whether or not it goes ahead. And that's very much the organizer's realm at the moment, and it's a huge responsibility because they're also losing turnover and revenue on a daily basis by having to postpone or even cancel shows. So they would look at that and risk assessment, and they would do the risk mitigation to say, if we put these parameters in place, this is what the show is going to look like. Are we approved to go ahead? And those parameters would be shared with visitor and exhibitor so that everybody knows the rules of engagement. And then I think once people know that those measures are in place and that the corrective action health and safety has been taken into consideration, that would help them to determine whether they would visit or not. The fact of the matter is that people want belly-to-belly contact. People need people, and if you chat to your friends, if you chat to your colleagues, your peers, anybody in any industry, all they're wanting is to have wine with somebody, to have coffee with somebody, to be able to have that connectiveness, to be able to sit across a table, not across a screen, and say, hi, how have you been? And just get real and get connected.
Without a mask.
Exactly. And going back to your point of, could my staff work from home? The salespeople, the revenue generators have been working from home. One was struggling because she was on her own for a period of time. The other one was struggling because she had a young niece running around, and not only is she a revenue generator for a company, she's studying. So that became quite difficult, and then data challenges and all of that. But for the most part, everybody did okay, but they didn't perform at optimum. And being an essential service provider now, we've got the opportunity to be able to have the environment where we can engage, particularly with the design studio, because most projects begin and end with design.
Sure. So going forward, do you see the need to justify keeping an office if some of your staff, especially the sales team, has been able to work from home? I mean, if you have a larger office, do you see the need to scale down because you still need to be able to control a certain aspect of the business and so forth? I understand that from the guys in the manufacturing areas, those in the warehouse. I mean, certain things can only happen in the warehouse, so these guys have to go to the office. But do you really see going forward the need to justify having an office? And if so, would that be a very good use of your capital at this time, considering that there's questions around the relief package and there's no revenue coming in from the event and exhibition side? It's probably going to be another 8 to 9 months, or perhaps do you see Blue Creative being in a position whereby this can certainly balance out and justify keeping an office? But if you don't have to keep an office, do you see yourself implementing some new policies, helping your staff, especially those critical staff, to be able to understand how to make use of tools so we can actually manage a remote team? So you've got Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Skype, whatnot, all these tools, and helping them as well. I mean, every single day being on Zoom meetings and encouraging each other. This is a new situation. This is a new history being written for us. We all need each other. We all need to help each other, right? So do you see yourself justifying keeping an office or coming up with new policies for your sales team, working from home and things like that? And also, for those who work from home, do you as a company will choose to contribute towards helping these guys, for example, from the data perspective you mentioned earlier, because obviously they're working for the company. So what has come into your mind in terms of all of this?
I think it's going to be, look, right now, I don't think there's a single staff member that wants to work from home right now. Because some of them have been on their own for 7 weeks, so they've got cabin fever. They're feeling despair. They're feeling despair, and they need the engagement, and they need to see the face behind the business to be able to say, we're okay, let's breathe. We can do this thing. So which is not captured on a Zoom call or a telephone call. So we've partly got a team that is wanting to come into the office, and we're trying to manage that to say it's not necessary for you to come into the office because what you're doing is not part of the essential services. So you need to carry on working from home. If we have to increase the Zoom meetings or increase the communication, that's what we'll do. But in the long run, I think the more staff should work remotely. It doesn't have to be from home, but I do believe if somebody's disciplined and they're focused and they're passionate about and love what they do, they can work anywhere in any environment, provided they've got connectivity. And that's what we're helping at the moment, is to say, if you need data, we're here to help. Not everybody's got Wi-Fi or fiber or that infrastructure. So we are helping where it is needed. But I think it's more about, with us being influencers, I found a huge difference between dealing with Zoom calls and Zoom meetings with the team, particularly the designers, versus actually standing at the PC with them and saying, okay, this particular element for the sanitizing unit, it needs this little bit of polish. And that is what was a disconnect with working So I think the designers would always need to be in an office with us. And does that mean that we can go into a smaller admin office? Most definitely. What we're going to fight tooth and nail to stay where we are because we love our new home. We've been there since August, and we haven't been there that long, and we wouldn't want to lose it. And we'll fight tooth and nail for it. But at the end of the day, if the picture means that we have to move into a smaller establishment, we're very adaptable. We're the most adaptable nation in the world.
Said now the pandemic is over, COVID-19 is gone, lockdowns are just completely we are deconfined or whatever. What do you do? And maybe you've lost staff and they've moved on, but what do you do now when there's a new employee coming in? And what is your encouragement? Do you encourage them to working from home as well, or you give them the opportunity to work both at the office and from home? Do you think going forward it's going to be a case of you don't have to be too hard on an employee if she or he is willing to work from anywhere as long as he or she gets the job done?
Exactly. I think a lot of what we do, there has to be a component of time spent in the office. So the revenue would typically go and take a brief from a client. They would come back and they need to speak in the words and the meaning of the client to translate that brief across to the design studio. So that might not necessarily happen on an email. And I know some people struggle with that. It's not impossible, it can happen, but I think people would have the choice. They would prefer to maybe come in for a few hours, brief in their stuff, get their CRM loaded,
Exactly.
Be able to go home or have more meetings or to go to the gym or whatever their activity is, and then maybe in the evenings buckle down and do further briefs, further prospecting, whatever the case may be. So I think there will definitely be a flexibility to it, and this is definitely the new norm.
That's it. Well, guys, talking about CRM, which is customer relationship management, and the reason why she's talking about it is because she knows I'm the best, one of the best, if not the best, in South Africa when it comes to that, and particularly for your industry. I do believe up until today that I'm a one very unique supplier who's been able to harness and understand your industry pretty well and build a solution that nobody else has ever done, and the flexibility, the ability to use that. And thanks again to my good friend John Coleman, who one day I'll be able to speak, and perhaps whatever, if things happen, I can also bring in one of these lives as well, just to share experiences. It doesn't matter the circumstances. It's about being open and talking to people, helping them exactly from where they are. So CRM is a platform they use. And Jill, we're coming down to the last 8 minutes of our first show, 1 hour. And what I would like you to mention, I mean, first of all, you're a woman, and you're resilient. I mean, as you talk and I can listen to you, I love your spirit, right? So there's no backing down, and that's the one thing that. And I know you and I have spoken so many times. You are interested in trying so many other things. You want to invest with me in my alternative investment opportunities. We'll talk about that on Friday shows. But I know Andrew. I would have loved to. If Andrew is there, please bring him in on the screen. I want to say hello to him. But your mindset, you're so resilient, and I love that, right? As a woman, a CEO of a group of companies, experiencing what is going on right now, what can you tell every upcoming entrepreneur who is listening to us right now, looking at you and how you're holding firm to your belief, your core belief, and you mentioned a few things, you're pivoting. It's about longevity. It's not about the short term. So working for longevity means there's so many things right now, even if they don't pay off, right now. The idea is you need to be positioned in such a way that post the pandemic, you are able to reap the rewards, and that for a lifetime. What can you tell our audience right now who are listening to us?
The most important thing for me is to have a dream and to have a passion and to love what you do. My advice is, in our current climate and in our country, entrepreneurship is definitely the way to go. But it's not for everybody. There are risks, and it's not glamorous. There are times where you're sweating blood, you're struggling, and it seems like there's no hope at the end of the horizon. and something just drives you, something just makes you get out of bed and say, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to conquer this thing, I'm going to get over it. And it's the same with COVID-19. There's many reasons and there's many theories as to why this thing came into our lives. But what we've got to do, and what my advice would be, is to turn it into a positive for yourself. See what you're good at, look at your skills and leverage off that. And if you need help with it, find an entity or a mentor or somebody that can help you and train you and advise you and educate you to be able to offer a springboard for you to get to where you want to be, and follow your dreams and follow them with passion and faith. Just have faith, because God will provide. And another piece of advice that I have is, don't hurt people. Don't bite the hand that feeds. Always be grateful and humble for what you have. And people that are very trusting and open, don't walk over them. Don't hurt them, because it's going to come back to you one day and you'll regret it. And the worst thing you could do is to get through life having regrets. So blend yourself and mix yourself with people that have the same entrepreneurial spirit and positive energy and mindfulness, so that it'll springboard you to where you want to be. If you're going to hang around with people that are down and out or depressed or not seeing light at the end of the tunnel, or even trying to have a bit of hope or ideas or innovation, then you're mixing with the wrong people. Change your crowd. Change your badge of honor and courage proudly on your chest. And if you need help, we all here to help you.
Fantastic. Well, you know what? On that note, thank you very much. I just have one last question I want to ask you. On a personal base, on a personal level, how did you find yourself having to, self-motivate during this COVID-19? Because obviously, it's not an easy thing for all of us. What keeps you going? Because you could have chosen to throw in the towel, like, hey, you know what? I got 54 problems right now, and and this whole thing and the relief package and that, but what is the one thing that keeps you going, that makes you believe?
I have to show up. I have to show up, because that's who I am. I'm not going to take this lightly, and I'm not going to take it lying down. And I've never been like that in my life. I was raised to not do a half job, to do things to the best of my ability, with all the skill set and all the power that I have inside me as a human being to do it. And I have God on my side, and I know that He's going to see us through. And it's not going to be how we want it. It's not going to be how we want it. It's not going to be what I envisioned for myself. But maybe that's a good thing.
Beautiful. Gill, thank you very, very much for availing yourself for this 1 hour inspirational conversation as part of the Redefine Your Hustle show. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking and inspiring you guys and talking about our own experiences, but I wanted an expert of the industry, of the event and exhibition industry, and also talk a little bit about the tourism and on how the COVID-19 has impacted all of us. So Julie is a good friend of mine. She's a client of mine. She's family. We laugh, we go for dinner together. But today we decided to share some insight. And thank you very much, Jill. I mean, there's a lot of things that you've mentioned, especially from a tourism perspective as well, that I'm pretty sure some people here will be able to enjoy that going forward. Just so you know, guys, this is the first session, episode 001 of the Redefine Your Hustle show. It's going to be every Monday at 7 p.m. Tune in, share this post, share with your friends, share with everybody who wants to be able to join in and come in. And also, you all need to be able to ask questions so that we can actually respond to these questions anytime. So on Friday, I'm going to have another show, which is not on the Redefine Your Hustle show. It's going to be dedicated purely towards technology, investment, banking, and you name it, blockchain technology and crypto assets. So for those of you here who are listening and want to know what we are doing on the blockchain space, on the alternative investment space, I will be able to talk not this Friday, but every Friday on things such as real estate investing, for example, giving you an opportunity to learning how you can invest in what I call alternative investment. Earlier on, I was on a very nice call with a gentleman from Ghana who reached out to me for investment opportunity in the real estate space. But we are using technology, artificial intelligence, and we will be to talk about banking solutions, the mining sector, the healthcare sector, but everything that's got to do with technology that will be an investment that will be on our Friday show. So, Jill, thank you very much, and have a great evening. And send my regards to Andrew. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. It was
Thank
well
you.
done. Thank you. I love this interview.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Keep well. Bye now.
Bye.